let's make sure. Looks like we're up and running. All right. And then I have to watch it from Facebook. All right, so there it is. Okay. I think we're good. We're going to find out. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi.
Hi.
Long time no see.
Yeah. It's been a while.
So, looks like we've got 3 people watching already so far, so I guess we'll go ahead and get started. So, tell everybody a little bit about you. Who are you? What do you do? And then I'm going to start asking questions.
Hello, I'm John Holmes, filmmaker, photographer, cinematographer basically across the board from Washington, D.C. Born and raised in the DMV, and it's always my home.
Well, all right then. So, how did you get started down this path? Because I always love hearing people's like journey, like where they started and then how they ended up there.
Honestly, my dad,
Okay.
you know, he worked the regular jobs. He was military, lawyer. Uh, um, but he was an artist. My uncles on his brothers were artists. One of my uncles ran a movie house in Baltimore.
Okay.
My father loved shooting pictures and loved shooting like stuff on 8 millimeter. So I was kind of raised to loving the cinema and loving the camera base. So my parents were very like old fashioned conservative type people, but they love art. And they raised me on films and TV shows, and especially horror and the thrillers and supernatural stuff, and you know, very opposite of their normal 9 to 5 stuff. But they were
Okay.
there, but they were open minded to a degree about certain things, and just kind of learned from it and ran with it.
Okay. Okay. So, what was your first like paid gig? Like what was the first thing that you did where you actually got paid to do something?
um, Film wise, I would say I was working on a film in DC and oof, about almost 30 years ago, roughly.
Okay.
And I was a gopher, just straight gopher, ran around, grabbed everything I could, and I just watched and learned. And I taught myself, minor stuff in high school and elementary school about camera stuff, but to be on set and just taking it all in, and then I would like use my dad's old VHS camcorder, and I would just like start recording all the BTS stuff on set, and they were like, "Oh, you recording that?" Like, keep recording. We might need that footage. I'm like, okay, whatever. You know? And it was my first dealing with actors and crew and attitudes, but it came with the territory, so it got better over as time went.
Okay. Now, are you one of those where you wish you were still using film or do you appreciate digital enough that you don't care?
Well, it took me a minute to jump into the digital world. I was a film
Did you
kid.
fight it?
I fought it. I fought it for a couple of years,
Okay.
and I my first camera was my dad's Pentax 35 millimeter. I even had like the cheap little, what was it? The little Kodak little thing you shove the film in the back, little narrow rectangular piece of junk.
Okay.
And then they also, when they made the disc film, remember those little flat things that had the circular information on it?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so those were like my early days of cameras. But my
Okay.
dad's Pentax was my first official camera, and I ran around everywhere taking pictures, and I sucked at it. I sucked hard at it. Then I realized, manual was not my best friend, especially with, I did not have a keen, focused eye.
Okay.
So, but I have a lot of stuff like on film that was like so out of focus. And I was like, damn. But it was a learning experience when I got into high school and college. I played in the dark room, and I kind of missed that smell of the chemicals in the dark room,
I could
but all
see
my
that.
black clothes, all my black clothes got a dab of bleach on it here or a dab of bleach on it there from the chemicals. I used to hate that, but that smell of the dark room always it just felt like home.
Well, what's funny is like as you're talking about it, like I can smell it because I know
Yeah.
what it smells like.
It's been so long. I remember
Because
going to like some of those photo shops and just going,
now I can't say that I have that kind of memory attached to it, but as you're talking about it, like it's registering, like it was a very distinct smell. All the photochemicals had such a very distinct smell.
yeah.
I'm not sure who the Facebook user is that commented, but they said it was 110 film for the Kodak.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's not showing me who the person is. So whoever that was, thank you.
And then after doing the photo stuff, I got my hands wet on actually like loading a projector, like film camera, with the big
Okay.
spools of films and so forth. And it was a learning experience of how you had to clamp it down, just like an actual old fashioned, you know, film camera, photography camera. When it came to the actual movie cameras, you had to clamp the film down, make sure the spool was right, and so
Okay.
forth. And if you didn't
I don't
clamp
think
it,
I ever dealt with that. I don't think I ever
yeah,
dealt with
there was
that.
a few times, there was a few incidents on set back in those days. If you didn't properly clamp that film down, the metal clamp would actually scrape on the inside of the canister
Okay.
and cause shards would get everywhere. And I just, remember seeing people like freaking out over that and everything like that. It was just, it was a mess, but it got better over time. And when digital happened, I fought it. I was just like, nah. I was definitely one of those guys. Like, I don't know how really digital is going to play out, but
Right.
when I finally did, I think it was for me. It was the cost of stepping into digital was much cheaper than film. Like I didn't have to worry about losing a shot if it was out of focus or something like that.
Sure. Sure.
The digital aspect saved me on that end. And
Yeah, I could see that. I could
but
see that.
otherwise, that I still love film. And it's kind of funny how nowadays people are trying to go back to it. And of
I feel like
course,
that's normal though. I feel like
yeah,
anytime you really move away from something, somebody goes, "Oh, hey, we forgot about this. We need to bring this back." And then you're like, "But didn't we move away from that for a reason?"
yeah,
No,
yeah.
I
I
get
always
that.
laugh. Yeah, and I remember running around ordering film from other states. Like, oh, we got this film shoot this weekend. I was like, oh, this place out in LA, they're cheaper. I'm like, but there's a place up the street in Rockville. But yeah, LA's cheaper. And I was like, okay. So we would have to wait for all these spools of film to come in the mail and everything. And I'm like, why don't we just run to Rockville? But there were
Jeez.
some good places out there that used to, and then like them to clean it up and fix it up. And then I learned also from my dad how to edit on 8 millimeters, which he used to
Okay.
have this old fashioned, looked like two staplers put together. And he would actually lay the film down and slice it and tape it with simple, like clear Scotch tape on the 8 millimeter. And
Okay.
that's how you put the film together.
Interesting.
So,
I learned
yeah,
something new today.
yeah, it was fun. My dad always liked doing home movies, and and then I had to help him transfer into VHS. But it was so funny. It was just like all those old home movies. It's like just flashbacking to my childhood and highly embarrassing moments of the family. But it was a good time. And I'm named after him, and I loved art like him. It just runs in the family.
Okay.
So
It's kind of on my end too. My grandfather was the photographer in my family. He worked for I mean, he did it in the military. He worked for the White House. He worked for the World Bank. So he always referred to it as stuffy corporate types. That's what he photographed. It was basically it. It was just people in meetings and situations. So what do you feel like is that you've accomplished the most? Like what's your proudest moment in film?
hmm. Well, uh, so far, meeting a lot of interesting artists on set, directors, producers, and just just listening to them and learning, being invited on set, being on, on TV shows and things like that. I worked on several little TV shows behind the scenes. I've never was an actor, so I was always behind the camera.
Sure.
I would never thought I had the pretty face for it, but
Who's
I did.
pretty? You're
Yeah, I've
pretty. Stop
auditioned. I
that.
did like minor audition stuff, but I really stayed behind the lens the whole time. And but yeah, I've worked on several different TV shows over there. God, almost 30 years in this game doing this, and but I didn't really get like major recognition, so I'm not really at the point where I like, okay, this is my peak or anything like that. There's definitely worked with other people, and I just piggybacked off them and just watched them create and learn. And like one of my good friends, he started out before the rest of us, and I just followed in his footsteps. Like really was like a gopher for him, helped him out. So and watched how he did things. And but right now, I want to say learning new stuff definitely is. I feel good because I'm doing more motion comic animation. So I stepped into a new genre of filmmaking for me. It was like
Okay.
I I suck at drawing. So when I found the way to take, say, comic book or artwork and give it life in a sort of a cutout format in a way,
Mm-hmm.
and it was so much fun. And one of my good friends who started his own company, Rexco Comics, shout out to Troy, Jeffrey Allen, Nick Allen, and
Okay.
they gave me the opportunity to work for one of their books called Fight of the Century, and
Okay.
it's been a fun ride to create the animation for them. And then we did the a project. They brought me in on a project for the late rapper MF Doom, who passed away about 2 years ago now, and they did a
Okay.
book dedicated to him. So I did a animated project and a trailer to support the book, and that was a lot of fun.
Okay.
Um,
Now,
there's
do you have like any formal training at all, or was it all hands on for you? Like, did you go to school for anything?
I uh, um, went to Nova for a while, then I went to the University of Maryland, but I studied like the basics at Corcoran School of the Arts when it was open.
Okay.
And there I learned the basic of computer editing and animation, stuff like that. But that was all on Mac, and I've taken it from there. I'm not a Mac person. Sorry, Mac people. I'm just not a Mac
I'm not a
person.
Mac person either.
Um, so I learned on Mac like all the Adobe stuff back in the 90s, the basic stuff of how to do everything. And I tried all different software, but I always went back to Adobe and got my hands on PC and started building my own, and you know burned out a few of them trying to render projects. But yeah, I've gotten to a point where it's been cool to like get my hands dirty in that aspect of like building my own setup and everything. But yeah, I went to Corcoran for the basic stuff, but I already knew like photography by then, so it was not easy ride, but it was a kind of a what's the word I'm looking for, different take on it from growing up and like learning the basic stuff from my dad to being in a room with other people and the teachers like grilling me about photography. I'm like, you know what? But it was cool, and I definitely learned. I also love the cinema from around the world, and going through that and applying it to school was definitely fun.
Okay.
I
Because
see
Larry's
that.
a Mac user.
Yeah, I'm seeing that. Good old Larry.
um, all right. Well, all right. So we've talked about film versus digital. We've talked about education. What were some of the stepping stones for you though? Because I know one of the things that a lot of people that and will end up watching this, a lot of people are trying to figure out how to get through the steps to get to where they're going. So what were some of the things that took you to get you to where you are now?
A lot of falls. Definitely a lot of falls. Um, um, not knowing the basics sometimes on certain, you know, projects. I got a little overwhelmed sometimes on set, or I got overwhelmed on a shoot in the beginning of my career because I figured, oh, I got the basics down. I should got this underhand. But then I go into the
Mm-hmm.
location, it's like the lighting is off, the camera's not right, this is not right, the people have attitudes. And it's like I wasn't prepared for that, and
Okay.
so there was a lot of stuff where feel like I wasn't prepped for, so I failed in front of their eyes. And then I
Okay.
was like, all right, I can do better. So it definitely was a learning process to really see how, okay, this is how you deal with people, this is how you deal with the situation. But it was definitely a lot of falls. And then like I learned from those falls definitely. And even with like the computer stuff, like I said, it was like I burned out this or did that, or I over said like, oh yeah, I can work on that and knock it out, and realized I couldn't knock it out because my system wasn't set up right for it or something like that.
That fake it till you make it.
Yep. Yep. You fake it till you make it, but you make sure no one else can see it. But
Absolutely. Now,
uh,
talking about like the fact that you use Adobe, did you ever use anything like DaVinci or anything else?
I like DaVinci. DaVinci's a good program for coloring and so forth. Yeah. It there is definitely, for me, it was a learning curve between DaVinci after being on Adobe for so many years.
Oh, I could see that. I could see
Yeah.
that. I had a hard time with Adobe at first because I have access to all the Adobe products, but I tried Adobe first, hated it. Jim turned me on to DaVinci, and I marginally started to like it. And then I found myself on CapCut because CapCut's like a little bit more user friendly. But
Mm,
then I'm back on Adobe. It's starting to sound like that's normal.
well, yeah. I hate to sound like the old garagey person, but some of these simple app programs these people use they're not really getting their hands into editing,
Oh
like
no, I give you that, but that's the whole point is it's simplicity for the average everyday person and not the person who's deep diving,
yeah,
into their passion, if you will.
I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I like DaVinci since I wasn't really a Mac person. I never really messed around with Final Cut. I tried it
I never tried it either.
when Sony was at Vegas. I tried the Sony Vegas, didn't like that one too much. I kept going all the way back to Adobe. Always it was Adobe, especially I mess with Photoshop. You mess with Illustrator. You get mess with Audition.
Mhm.
So Adobe had everything under one category, and you can't argue with that. So,
Yeah.
and I always go back to Adobe. I mess around with something else like DaVinci, or I do like Sony SoundForge, or what's it called now? I can't think of it. It's called like something else. But yeah, I'm always gonna be an Adobe kid. Should get that
Yeah,
tattooed
I'm
on me.
with you. I've been enjoying all the stuff that they've been launching here recently with like all the AI upgrades and stuff. And
Yeah,
actually even Adobe Premiere Pro has come out with some of the stuff that other companies were already doing with like, pulling the closed caption, like pulling the whole transcript from the video. It like you can even now mark out like if I said or so, or if there's certain words you want to remove, like it actually marks it for you and
yeah,
then you can delete it. And I was
yeah,
like, okay, I can work with that because I am a like and so and girl. I try not to, but it's so hard. See, there you go.
yeah. The whole AI thing is it is scary a little bit for me at first. I was like, wait, this is crazy, But one of my partners, Chuck Young, he's also a great artist. He was like, you know what, we'll probably be ahead of the game, um, if we learn it ourselves, and we could take it to advance, because since we're artists already, doing the
Mm-hmm.
AI would be easy. I was like, yeah, you're right, and I've seen some of the stuff they've done, like filling in that whole generation fill thing is ridiculous. you know
Mm-hmm.
but I have
I'm
noticed.
gonna comment on. We had two comments. One person, and I have no clue who. Usually I can see the comments like on the actual like feed, but I can't see them at the moment, so I have no clue who's commenting. um One said PCs are amazing, you can at least upgrade what you burn.
Exactly.
Which I
Exactly.
agree with 100%, because Apple controls their product like to the 10th degree.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And then Adobe is all over now. You can edit from your phone if you need to or move it around. I love it. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. And actually, that was part of what I even saw with what the most recent thing is. Now they have this, oh, stop it. They have this Adobe Express, which when I opened it up, I'm like, oh, it's Canva for Adobe, because
Hmm.
that's kind of what it looks like. It just doesn't look as user friendly, maybe.
Right.
But with the AI stuff, I've played with it a little bit. I actually had a conversation about this yesterday. Somebody had messaged me asking me about AI, maybe it was the day before. And I came across something, I want to say it was like on Instagram or something, that's they were talking about AI, and so many people are worried about, what it's going to take, from the creative industry. And somebody said, well, I guess clients are going to have to get better at asking for what they want, because otherwise photographers are going to have it in the bag regardless, just because trying to translate whatever it is that you want this thing to create for you, you've got to be creative enough sometimes just to tell it what to do.
Oh yeah, it's definitely not perfect. I've seen other people use the AI, and it definitely has its glitches and flaws.
Oh yeah.
It's even with like the photography, I've noticed that if you're shooting your photo at what 32 megapixels and everything, even with the generation fill, it's not that high quality. If you zoom in, the filling part is not to the same level of the photograph.
Oh yeah,
So
absolutely. Well, and they
you
tell you
definitely
that
have,
too.
yeah, it's not perfect. And even on video, people are playing around with these space alien stuff, which is kind of funny, but they're basically doing old fashioned rotoscoping. You shoot the footage and you lay the AI animation on top. But if you're
Hmm.
in like what was a heavy fight sequence, it won't keep up. It's going to glitch.
Sure.
It's going to fall off. So they're not to that point yet. But it's we don't have to worry about Skynet anytime soon. But it's going to happen though.
Well, I think what so many people are afraid of is people are always afraid of being replaced, I think is what it is. But to me, I look at it like a tool. Like it gives me another option and opportunity to utilize something else, because a lot of people are bothered by the fact that, like, people will generate the AI art and then they toss it up on social media and everybody's like, oh my god, I love that, are you selling that, are you doing this, are you doing that? And I'm looking at it going, that's AI art, they didn't actually create that. But at the
Right.
same time, I've used it to either do like a background fill or to take a portion of whatever I generate and put it into something else. And I think that's really what it's meant for, is it's meant to be a tool for creative people. It's not necessarily meant to take over for creative people.
Yeah, it's definitely a new avenue for artists. Um, but the legality is going to be a problem with some people. And does it change the copyright laws as well? And who's
Well, not really, only for the simple fact that if the company that has the AI, the company that you're generating it through, depending on what their verbiage is on how you can use it, is what's going to decide that.
right? I can see that. There's that's my fear with this AI thing is the people that don't generate, like you said, who owns the rights, and if
Mhm.
I'm not sure of the details. Like I heard of a case of a photographer who had his work, like grabbed by an AI as an example, and
Mhm.
without his author, without his permission. And there was some legality of who owned the right to it because the AI grabbed his work, slightly changed it, and the company said they owned it. So
Mhm.
it,
No,
you
I
know,
can see that.
it's a whole new world, but we'll see how it plays out.
Exactly. Exactly. It's like, might as well embrace it right now. I mean, it could be gone in 5 years, or it could be, astronomical in, 3 to 5 years, but it's everywhere right now. Like everybody's talking about it and everybody's got a new one. Can't tell you how often I hop on YouTube and like, "Oh, this AI blows Midjourney away." And I'm like, "I call bullshit, but okay."
Yeah, I mean, what I've dabbled in a little bit was just to play around with it, but for like filmmaking, great for storyboard art
Okay.
and just the feel of like another layer of how to plan out your camera angles, your lighting, and everything. It looks great. It works. Um, I just I have an issue that you can only use certain programs online, so the company can see what you're doing. It's like, nah, can I just like do it at home without you watching me? I don't need another big brother watching over my work now. So
No, I hear you. All right. Well, okay. So we'll circle back to film for you. What are some of the have you worked on any large projects that like any of us would register or no?
yeah, I've worked on some large projects, but credibility wise, I'm not like a major name on it or anywhere. But I started out in the '90s with, I was like simple crew gophers for like Enemy of the State, and I was grips for like 12 Monkeys and things like that back in those
Okay.
days. Um, let's see, you know, like I said, auditioned for several other films, but then really as the top players in a lot of the films in the DC area, no, not really. There's other projects I've worked on, and I just did it because a friend asked me for, or they need extra hands, and I got tossed in with a crowd scene, or I was helping out, assistant. But with IMDb's credibility, you can find yourself like 500 down the list on the people that worked on it. But that's my career. But I've been around a lot of it, and did like I said, same with the TV shows. Simple stuff like camera and grips, just not the major players at the time. So
Okay. So what would be the bulk of the work that you do now? Like what do you typically do on a daily basis?
the top of the list is editing, and
Okay.
then I'll do camera work or if sound and lighting. I work across the board. I don't
Okay.
turn down. But for the immediate projects I'm working on, I do a lot of editing, and I am doing animation for two feature film projects, which I can't really talk about.
Okay.
And then I just finished editing another friend's film out in LA, and then I'm jumping on a couple of projects with my boy, Chuck Young, and a few others. Then I'll be headlining my feature film later on this year. I had to put it on hiatus for personal reasons, but then I'm getting back into it, and
Okay.
but just staying busy, a lot of
So
cutting.
if you could give advice to anybody that wants to be in film, videography, cinematography, any of it, what would it be?
Take your time. Don't get upset. You will fall. You will mess up. Your first project will be terrible, but you did it. Congratulations, you did a film. Congratulations, you shot a short, you made a music video, you did a commercial, and you learned from it. Yeah, just as long as I've been doing this, I've definitely had my falls. I've had, lost friendships and argued about money and everything. And there's a lot of stuff out there that had, my name might be on it, my name not might be on it, but I know in my history I've worked on it and I made a lot of good connections through these projects.
Mhm.
But for anyone starting out, learn the craft, learn the equipment, learn to
Well, so
tell a
I
story.
I guess that's kind of what I'm looking for is like for you, for example, how do you book a job? Is somebody coming to you or are you looking for the work?
They'll come to me based on my reputation.
Okay.
For years before social media, it was all word of mouth, and your resume and who you knew, and it's still who
Mhm.
really. But with social media, you can put it out there now. It's for anyone to see. Um, there are certain people I would love to work with, and there's certain people I have approached that I want to work with. And it's just like if they have a project and everything, I'm a hired gun, so if someone needs help with something, they can hit me up. And but I definitely you know built my reputation word of mouth for years, and consistency on how I work. So, and that's another thing. You when you start this game, and it will, like I say, it will knock you down, but have fun with it and be consistent in your delivery, because social media or not, your reputation is everything.
Sure.
Mm.
Larry would like to know, what equipment do you use?
Um, for camera wise, I deal with the Black Magic. I love the Black Magic cinemas, and the pocket camera is great. I am a Canon kid. Yes, Larry, I like Canon cameras. Um, I go back to like the T5i, and then the 90D, or the 5D Mark II, 3, and 4. And those, I love my Canons. And but cinema wise, yeah, Black Magic. I worked with Reds, but for me, the Black Magic feels better.
Now, I have seen the Blackmagic cameras. I have never put my hands on one before. What is it that you like so much about them?
Oh well, my first dealing with the Black Magic was the Ursa, which is a very large beast of a camera. It's a pretty wide body, and it's heavy. But what I enjoyed about it was the dynamic range of the coloring, and the different levels of recording you could do on these cameras. So it felt, it's not a high, it's inexpensive kind of high end camera. Is the best way to describe
Okay.
it. And
Jim is making a statement, which was actually part of a question I asked and another question I was going to ask. If you like Blackmagic, you must be big on DaVinci Resolve. Because how are those two interconnected? Because I've never quite understood. Did
same
Blackmagic
company.
come first? Oh, okay. I didn't
Yeah.
know if one came over before the other one.
DaVinci is Blackmagic's editing software.
Right.
And you can use any software with the Blackmagics, but it's their own personal, software. You can, if you like, oh, Blackmagic, got to go to DaVinci, but you don't have
Mhm.
to.
Right, right.
And DaVinci's known for their coloring techniques, more than their editing, but their coloring skills is very good.
Yeah, but that user learning curve on the colors, where you have to, what's it called, fusion or whatever, where it's like you have to connect this thing to that thing to this thing to that thing. I don't know if I have the attention span for this.
There's a few people out there like that, and I'm definitely one of them. That's why I keep jumping back to Adobe,
Sure.
but you can actually work of them together very well.
Hmm.
But the editing aspect does not get a lot of talk about, but DaVinci's pretty good at that though.
Yeah, well,
So
I like the fact that they have a free version of it. And
yeah,
and I ended up paying for the paid version as well too, to get some of the extra bells and whistles. But I appreciated the fact that you have the free option, and even when you upgrade, you also have the option of you only pay for it once. So I think you get like two or three like key numbers for it, so you can have it on like two or three devices for that one payment, but you
right.
only have to pay for it once until you run out of those.
Hmm.
So I do appreciate that about it. But where was I? I was going somewhere else with that. Oh, DaVinci also gives you the opportunity to use the Adobe shortcuts, which I thought was interesting. Like you can actually run DaVinci as if you were running an Adobe. Like they've set the whole space up for that, which I thought was
Hmm.
pretty cool.
Yeah, I've really tried too much with the shortcuts, but that makes sense. It's like it's real easy for me personally to, if I do some coloring in DaVinci, and I can just drop it in Adobe without even missing a beat, and it's
Okay.
like I enjoy that. So
Larry would like to know, where do you shoot your film projects?
um so it depends on the project itself. For short films, we scout locations or we ask friends, um, and then we'll feel out if how crazy the budget will be. to do this stuff. Like for my feature film, I'm actually going to shoot in my own home. I checked the budget and everything for it, and it works in my favor to do it under my own roof.
Sure.
Um, but there's a lot of things. If I have a feel for it, or the location comes in play, then I'll ask around, who has this or whatnot. And, you know, I like shooting in the DC area compared to, say, Los Angeles, where, besides the cost of everything, it's easier to do it in your own home or your own backyard, because that a million times better. And
Well, now when you film on location, do you have to pull permits and stuff for that?
the best way is to get permits and insurance. It depends on the person you're dealing with. If they're not acquainted with your circles or how you do things, always get insurance. Always cover your butt, because you never know. Even the slightest thing can happen. A light fixture hits a wall, puts a dent in it, or like something can happen.
Sure.
But knock on wood, you take it easy, you don't get crazy on it, and you can knock it out. I mean, worked with some people a few years ago on a film, and this woman let us her house in Falls Church, and big, beautiful kind of mansion style house in Falls Church, hidden up in the trees. Like it was hidden behind from the road, and you couldn't see it. And she had all this elaborate stuff in this house, and I was like scared to walk through this house, but it was so funny. She was like, do what you got to do. And I said, we got insurance on this place. They're like, yeah, okay, good. Just to make sure.
I get that. So do you have any, like, I hate to say the phrase horror stories, because I know you shoot horror, but do you have like any like horrible situations that have happened while you've been shooting?
Okay, so there's some stuff I can't talk about.
Why did I have you on here?
Because actually the same house I was just talking about, the lady's house in Falls Church. The first day on set, for some odd reason, everybody was tripping over cords.
Oh,
These
jeez.
people have been in the game for 10, 15, 20 years, but for some odd reason, everybody kept tripping over cords. We thought something wrong was the story made us cursed or something like that. It was so funny. The director fell over a cord. I fell over the cord. We're like, all right, let's pick up all these cords so no one trips, and we still tripped. And it was just like simplest things, and like earlier when I said about loading the film cameras, we were in the middle, like I said, the middle of the shoot, and there was a young man who was the assistant cameraman. He kept loading all the films, but he never clamped down the film in the canister. So a whole day of filming over 1,200 foot spools was just done. Just sharded,
no.
just metal shears all over the footage. Unsalvageable.
Oh, geez. I have no clue who's asking the question, but somebody says, tell them about the horrible DPs.
I don't know who that is, but
oh, it's Sai. I have it all up now. I hit refresh and now I can see who's been commenting.
Sai.
It was Sai.
Yeah, I kind of figured somebody I knew.
Do I want to know what DP stands for, or do I know?
Well, not one of those movies, but
just checking.
I mean, it's not a John Holmes production, but no. Anyway, director of photography. There has definitely been a few cases where the director of photography is all right. I'll just put it out there. So I was working on this film about 4 years ago now. It was a martial arts action film.
Okay.
The cast was good. The director was cool. The choreographer, was a good friend of mine. It was actually friend Chuck Young again. And everything was going great. But the director of photography, who was also the cameraman for this shoot, his arrogancy was just through the roof, but he did not know how to shoot a fight sequence.
Okay.
And so we set up in this gym probably around 11 o'clock in the morning to knock out this one fight sequence, which normally would take him probably 3 to 4 hours tops.
Okay.
That was 11 a.m. We set the lights up. I said, everything's a go. When are we going to do this? The cast was still working out, as you know, the dance for the fight, all their routine they had to do. So I was like, all right, cool. Turn around, waiting for the director of photography, because the director was also one of the talents in the film. So, they were focused on their part in the project. So, all right. So it's like, hey, director photographer, are we ready to go? Everyone's ready. It's like, yeah. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. And, all right. 7 o'clock at night. We're still waiting. So he finally got
Wow.
the first shot down. I'm sitting there waiting and everything. And he was so animated. It's like, oh, this is going to look great and this and that. So he would do simple kicks, but take, a simple kick to the shin. Three takes, 4 takes tops. Standard is 3 takes.
Mm-hmm.
Take 43, and we're still doing this.
Uh-huh.
Everyone's getting tired. The crew is done. They're exhausted just in this whole process. The actors who are doing all these stunts, who I have to give them a lot of credit for, because their joints were, I can hear them cracking from across the room for keep doing the same kick over and over again.
Sure.
And I was getting frustrated. I was getting tired. By the time I turned around, it was 4 o'clock in the morning, and we're still working on this fight sequence.
Wow, that's a long day.
Yeah, which should have been knocked out 6 hours tops.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that definitely makes for a long day. And actually, Sai, because I know you're watching, you're in trouble. Because I never heard anything from you. You were supposed to invite me to join you guys so that I could watch and be behind the scenes, and I've never heard a word from you. So you're fired. Back to you. Fired, I tell you.
So yeah, there's been a few of those incidents, but yeah, that's one thing you will learn. You just gotta take everyone's attitude. I can't say everybody. I take that back. There's been several cases where egos play a major part on sets, even on photo shoots. I did some time working, the runways in New York back in the 90s, and models back in those times, with family members being their managers, mommy managers, and so forth. And then on set, you have people who you end up being a gopher for, who end up winning Academy Awards, but you're like, God, I can't believe they actually made it that far. And, well, I'm not naming names, but
Of course not.
But
so, director of photography. Why is it called director of photography if they're doing video?
It's an old school term. It still applies.
Okay.
I mean, when it comes to the cinema side, they basically have the same category as a cinematographer, a director of photography, and a videographer are roughly the same thing, but on a different level. You
that's Brianna, by the way.
What's
Hi,
up,
Brianna.
But yeah, it's like a videographer. You would never call yourself a videographer if you made a Hollywood feature film.
Okay.
There's so many different titles nowadays. It's ridiculous, and it's all the same thing. I can't, express it's like, oh yeah, I've been a videographer. Yeah, I've shot weddings. I've been a cinematographer. Yeah, I've worked on a feature film. I'm a cameraman for the director of photography on that short, on that music video, on that commercial. So it's different titles under the same umbrella, if that makes
Okay.
sense.
Yeah, I
And
can see
just
that.
like, and it just depends on what you do. But yeah, if you call yourself a videographer and you do just Hollywood feature films, I would change, change the title. So, but the director of photography also is not just the cameraman. He also is the kind of the head of the camera department. Like
Okay.
he'll pick the proper lenses. He'll check out the angles. He'll talk to the lighting and make sure everything.
Okay.
He's kind of like not the assistant director, but he's kind of like the second in command next to the director.
Okay.
And he will get in the director's ear and
Sai says we hadn't started the main project yet. I'm gonna call you. You better, because now John knows and Angel knows. They all know.
yeah. But yeah, it's
All
just
right.
yeah, it just I don't know. It's like when you get to that point when you understand like the angles and so forth, it's and just make sure you bring your A game.
So then explain kind of the hierarchy for me then, because director and producer are different.
Yes.
Okay, what's the
You
difference?
can be the same thing, but it's technically
I hate all of this. I hate all of it already.
I'm like, okay, I'll make it simple. Everyone knows who the director is. He's
Okay.
the one who gave his vision to said story. Now,
Okay.
the director can be the writer of the story, and he can cough up his own money. The producer coughs up the money, or
Okay.
producers.
Okay.
So one person can do all the above. He can also
Hmm.
edit, which I've done too. I've done all the above.
Okay.
But let's take you for example. You say, John, I wrote a story. I can't envision it, but I wrote a story. I want it to come out, and I have a lot of money.
Okay.
Cool. You give me your script. I go over it. I'll plan it out. I'll plan out the budget, or we hire people to do. You can basically hire somebody to do any of these jobs, or you can
Okay.
do it yourself. Um, let's say you wanted to do a short film about a woman who goes crazy and murders people and takes pictures in her own home. Boom. Let's
I mean,
call that. And you're like,
it could happen to me one day.
yeah,
I mean, it's possible.
And when you write your story of any story, you try to write with people you know in mind, as well as locations. So, like
Okay.
you would write in your own home, like you would feel comfortable, say, like, "Oh, my sister, I can hear her voice. She can play this character, but she wouldn't actually be in it. But you can
Hmm.
hear the type of mannerisms, and then you would see, like, okay, go into my kitchen. My kitchen's over this way. So you would talk to the director, and you guys would work out the layout or the rough storyboards of the idea you just created. And if I said, all right, Dawn, your budget will be $5,000 right now before we even attach the actors to it, and then we can go from there. If you don't want any actors in and you want to do it yourself, we'll keep it around 5 to 6. But do you want to makeup people? You want this, and that's when the budget starts going up.
Okay.
And you're like, I only have 10. We're gonna tap out at 10. Cool. We'll figure out. We'll cut corners and make it work.
Hmm.
But since you coughed up the money as the producer, you are calling the shots. So
Okay.
if I say, "Hey, Dawn, I have Michael B. Jordan and like I don't know Jason Momoa coming on set," and but you're like, "I don't like Jason Momoa. I don't like him at all, so I don't want to use him." Then they're like, "All right, cool. I won't get Jason anymore. He's
Said
gone."
no woman ever, by the way.
So things like that. You call the shots, and then from there you have your crew, and then you'll have to figure out what you have to pay them. If you have a good crew, some of them will work for cheap or work for nothing because they're getting exposure and you're feeding them and they're learning, especially
Mhm.
newcomers. A lot of newcomers will work for free or work for credibility and credit and so forth, as long as you feed them too. Make sure you feed your crew. Hands down, the most number one thing you need to do is feed your people.
Right.
You know, but after that, it's like how you play it out, how you do your scenes, how you break down the days, and stick to an 8-hour window. Sometimes it does go over to 14-hour, 12-hour day, but as long as you're getting it done.
River would like you to know she finally made it.
Hi. So hopefully I'm working with her soon on the feature.
You can't work with her. She's mine.
I beg to differ. Okay, that's a whole nother video.
That's a whole other conversation. Okay, fine. You can borrow her.
I saw her first.
Nuh-uh.
No.
Start with me. I will fight.
Ask her who you belong to. No.
She said, love you both. So, and then, oh, wait. And then Sai says she's actually mine. Crystal says River is amazing. It's all about River now. Good job, River. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Good people.
So we've got
people.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So we've got director, producer. What would your title be if you're editing? Are you just an editor for
You're the editor? Yeah, the editor. Okay. Nowadays, the director likes to edit, but it's not set in stone.
Okay.
Editing is a major part. If you have a shitty editor, you're gonna have a shitty film.
Sure.
But the key elements to a good film, if your story is terrible, you have a great editor, it's gonna come out great. If you have good sound effects, good music, special effects, and a good cast and great music, a shitty script will look amazing.
Okay.
So
I could see that.
Yeah, it's all editors are very important, and it's always good to have a good editor that doesn't edit on his phone. I'm not knocking anybody that does that, but
well, and I think people that do the phone stuff, it's because of what they have access to a lot of times. Because I'm fortunate to have access to the whole Adobe suite, but that's because of my full-time job. Yeah. I'm lucky to have that. Otherwise, I would be going to really want to pay for that when I could use this, So I get that part of it. And phones and tablets have definitely come a long way.
Well, the stuff that you and I do, it is expensive. It is expensive, and if you're going to dive into something like this, even if you was like, "Hey, I want to make a film," it's going to eat in your pocket. It's going to eat in your pocket. So, but I mean, for me, it was worth it, and I'm glad I did it. And I mean, I've been doing this for so long, and I mean, I've worked regular jobs, and I've worked regular jobs to take care of family and help out with other things, but I've always put money aside towards a project, and even if it's a photo shoot or a film, if I wanted to, I've had my own films submitted in film festivals that I've worked on, and it's just like you got to spend the money,
Yeah, Crystal Manning said, "Spend money to make money."
Yeah, you
just have to hope you can make more than what you spent.
Well, there's going to be a couple of times where that won't work out. There's a lot of people who've made feature films have not made their money back, but it's out there on streaming platforms getting millions and millions of views, but they didn't make the money back they put into the film.
Right.
Streaming dollars is a whole other category. We're not going to talk about.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Well, I mean, that's even with the photography. I mean, the massive amount of money that I've spent, one, to learn it, and then two, to harness it. And then a lot of that's like recurring things too, like the softwares and stuff that you have to utilize. That's why I was asking, about like some like the video editing softwares. I hate video in so many ways when it comes to editing, but I know it's because I don't know it. But there's always like this like weird disconnect with it, because okay, I have the video in front of me. Like, what do I do with it now? Like I know I can color correct it or I can do whatever I want with the colors and that sort of thing. And I know there's places I can clip it, but do I add a sound effect here? Do I add a transition there? Like, it's just, there are so many freaking options that it's just like, my brain's like, look, I need you to stop. Just need you to stop.
Well, for me, actually, it's been the opposite. Anytime I'll have a project, even if it's photos, I try to think cinematically with it. And
Mhm.
if someone gives me an idea, like, oh, you want to shoot this, 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 and they give me a script, my brain is automatically on a run.
I
And
envy it. I can do that with photography. I can do that with photos. Like, I can set up a whole scene. I can photograph and edit. But when it comes to that video, so many people pre-plan. If I pre-plan, it's going to be horrible. If I just do it on the fly, I can work with it. But if I have to like pre-plan everything, you forget it. It's just never going to happen.
I do pre planning because I will forget if I have a crazy idea, like for a music video that I've directed or an idea. I like to think with music too. Music is like,
Okay.
I think in trailers and I think in music videos.
Now I
So
could see that because Jim and I talk about video a lot too. And a lot of what I've come across when it comes to video is that they say before you edit your video, one, you should know what you want your thumbnail to say. And two, you should have the music figured out first before you actually edit the video.
yeah, I will agree with that. I've like for some of the animation projects I've done for the companies, I say, what music do you want to play? And I will listen to that track or an album. They're like, there's 4 or 5 songs in there we like, but we'll let you, run amok, do what you got to do. And I will
Mhm.
listen to the album and I'll think about the book or the scene and I'll listen to the different music. I'm like, I don't like that one too much. I like that. Oh, that one fits perfectly with this cut, this cut. So I'll rip it and I will drive my household crazy and I will play that song over and over again
Right.
in my studio. And that's when they'll know it's like, you're working on music video or animation, aren't you? And like, why? Like, we keep hearing the damn song over again. Sorry, this is
Need
how I
more
think.
soundproofing.
I'll drive down the road and play it in my car.
Yeah. Larry said, isn't some of your film projects in the background?
Actually, yeah. So, um, there's a music video I shot on this side from a man Face out of Baltimore, another talented rapper. And wait, side, this side, this side. Uh, there's actually one of the animation projects for the comic, and up there
Okay.
right now is my a film I did for Hey Joe. Actually, nope, this is my demo reel running. So yeah, it's one of the I love doing short films on music projects, and so I even did a short to one of my favorite bands, Depeche Mode, for their song
Okay.
"Wrong." I did like this inspired song music video for them, and it just whatever I feel, and it works. But music definitely plays a big part in wherever I'm doing, and I love listening to scores like pure orchestral scores from movie soundtracks. Just if I'm sitting there doing cleaning up photo shoots, because I have a bad habit of just shooting like 300 pictures, 400 pictures, especially if the
No. Stop
especially if
it.
the girl is talented and easy to work with, River, things like that. If I
Sure.
can knock out a bunch of pictures, and I'll
Well,
play music.
we usually give you shit because it takes you so long to get the photos back to somebody.
Hey, you can't rest. All right, you can't rest talent. You know. Well, I always say to my like anybody, it's like if you do it right, and you don't want to put shit out there. You want to make sure it looks good.
Right.
And that's I
Angel
am that's a bad habit for me.
Angel is asking what has been your longest project to do.
Being his friend. So,
I mean, I've met him.
love you, Angel. Sorry.
Well,
Well,
his next response was, "Why does it take so long to edit Mr. Holmes?"
well, you see how I'm along, Mr. Holmes. No. Um, but I take my time with it. I don't rush. Some people turn around and give the work back, but for me personally, is my name is on it, and I want it to look right. And
Said it takes so long because you edit all 300 photos, and you're amazing for that. River, I love you, but I'm never giving you 300. What? Every live. You do not need to be here for every live. Yeah, nobody needs to see you every time. Okay. I literally, I've only done one live so far where he visually hasn't come through the screen at some point in time, and that was last week. And
yeah, there he is.
enter kitty cat. He's like my mascot now.
There you go.
Can we? No, you can't rub on the microphone. They don't need to hear that. All right. Sorry for the distraction. Back to you. You really do not edit 300 photos, do you?
Actually, I do.
Why?
If I end up taking 3 photos of the same pose, then I might not do it. But if it's like, if the girl is or the person is talented and they know how to move in front of the camera, I'm just gonna snap.
River said I'd be okay with 10 edits out of that many.
Sorry, I've given you so many pictures.
Well, so here's the thing. Crystal says, "Wow, no way." So the reason I make that statement though is usually when I shoot, the person only ever gets just the edits. They don't get like everything that I shot that day, because they'll look at all the photos and go, "Oh, that's awful." Whereas I can look at it and go, "Okay, I'm going to edit that." And then my edit is what makes it look like something, so some people don't always want all the photos and I have learned that when you're in the same outfit or the same space, once you hit like 4 or 5 photos, nobody's paying attention any longer.
Well, I've always looked at it, for me, I have them switch up their outfits, but you're always going to have whoever's in front of your lens is not going to like what they look like. And that's just
right, because we're on worst critic. Exactly.
They're their own worst critics. So even if they look 100% amazing, you're like, you caught your idea, the vision is perfect. They're going to be like, they're not going to be happy. And they're going to find something wrong with it. And, if they're willing to let me be creative and they're going to do what I want, and I'm happy with it, then, I can't, but yeah, I if it's 300 pictures, it's 300 pictures. I'm sorry.
Angel said it will still take him a year apparently to do the 10 edits.
All right, sir.
And River said that's how you love doing it.
I do. Like, if the talent's easy to work with and my idea comes across, or they bring their own idea and I can work with it, it's a no-brainer for me.
How often do you do photography versus video?
It's varied over the years. Like, when I was a kid, it started out with photography, and my roots are photography, but I've been, really working on the video side a lot these last 10 years or so. I've been picked on for not doing a lot more photo shoots by certain people.
I'm aware.
And, it's just, I don't know. Sometimes I've gotten burnt out a couple of times, not, photo shoots. And, because if I can't relay my ideas perfectly, I don't feel like shooting. And the video side does take up a lot of time. And,
I can imagine. I think that's my hang up with the video though, is like I can take a photo. Sometimes it takes me a long time to decide what I want it to look like first. And then once I know what I want it to look like, it takes a little bit less time. But video just feels like it can be endless. Like you could just be editing and editing and editing and editing. Like it's very tedious to me.
Well, I mean, yeah, editing is tedious, but I do enjoy it. It's even for photography when I edit. And there are definitely some days when I'll look at that computer and say, "I'm not doing this today." I'll just, we all have lives, and they are. If the person wants you to do these properly, they're gonna have to wait for you to do it right. Because
Right.
I don't want to rush through anything. You
Sure.
know, and you get paid for it. You don't get paid for it or not. You like I said before, it's your name, it's your reputations on it, and you don't want to be that person like, oh yeah, he does work, but I'm not too happy with it, and
Mm-hmm.
and it's it is a back and forth with like, all right, I personally sometimes I don't like what I edit or shoot, but other people do. They love my creativity, and I'm happy for that. And it makes me feel better than when I'm sitting there looking like, oh my god, this looks like shit. But they're like, oh no, it looks good. I'm like, okay, good, okay, I can go home. Yes.
I've been there. I've been there
Yeah,
with photos sometimes where you're just overthinking it because you've stared at it entirely too long.
but yeah,
All right.
there's
So,
been.
oh, good.
I was gonna say like I I don't do a lot of wedding photography. When I did, it was that drove me crazy because that was so boring to me. It was simple shoot, but it just or wedding video. It's just
I don't have
yeah.
the attention span for
There,
weddings. People
yeah,
ask me to shoot them all the time, and I'm just like, I'm not built for them. I wish I was because you can make money at doing them, but I would rather gouge my eyes out usually.
definitely
But
been days like that. Yeah.
we we've we've reached our hour mark, so I'm going to ask the group collective that we have at the moment. Do you guys have any other questions for John while we've got him? And we'll give them a minute to toss their questions up there. See, I'm trying to think if I have any more. And I can't think of anything. I feel like we covered a lot today, which is actually pretty good.
But yeah, when you're ready, try, let your brain think in video. You'll get it.
I'm getting there. It gets a little bit easier every time I do one because I'll try to play with something. It's kind of the same thing like with the photography. When I started doing the photography again, I did not want to do the editing. Like I was dreading it. Like I called Angel and I'm like, what do I do?
Yeah.
So, then it was like YouTube videos and looking stuff up and trying to figure out, what was my edit style? What did I want from it? That sort of thing.
Yeah.
All right, Angel.
YouTube has
Okay.
been my school for a lot of stuff.
Same. Same.
I'm not going to sleep on it. YouTube, a lot of these younger creators have been focused on certain visual effects and things like that. And if I want to toss it in a music video or something, I will go to YouTube. I would like, oh, okay, I see how to do it. And I would flip it and I would make it mine,
Yeah.
And I was going to say, when it comes to photos or video, for me, I always have like the three basic thing. It's like, you have to tell a story even in your photographs.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can tell a story in a single frame, then video is not too far off.
Sure.
And if you can tell the story, if you can tell a beginning, middle, end in a 5-minute short film, then you understand a feature.
Okay.
You know.
All right. Angel would like to know what your future projects are.
Well, like I said, I am getting back on the ball of my feature film that I'm going to do. Like I said, I had to put on hiatus for a while, but I'm going to definitely get into it until the end of the year. I'm doing a couple of more animation projects for Troy and Nick Allen from Rexco Comics, and a few more for some other independent comic companies out there. And then I have a couple of music videos coming up, and a few short films with my partner Chuck Young.
Okay. Well, I would like to be kept in mind for the side project, and I would like to be kept in mind to be behind the scenes for a music video because I'm always very curious as to how those are put together.
Cool.
Just remember me.
Hey, but you promised you would be in one of the horror films to me. Like a couple of years ago, you said.
I do not remember promising that. I feel like right now you're making stuff up.
No, you said you would be in one of my horror films. I remember that clearly, and I do have witnesses.
Yeah, I know your witnesses, so I still think something's fishy here. River would like to know, how long did it take you to do the Jason video?
Oh, 3 days. It really, because River came up with this concept of like a Friday 13th Jason Voorhees style, and we shot it out in the woods. And since she had it played out and everything, it was real easy to come up with a conceptual story to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, it was just, I shot the video and I found a track that fit for what she was trying to create. It was simple. It was my first time really working with her, and it came out great.
Okay. Well, how long did it take you to edit and put that together for a final product?
Like 3 to 4 days. It wasn't long at
That's
all,
not
but
bad.
yeah, I mean, it was a short. It was like a 5 minute
Sure.
piece.
I gotcha.
You can do the basic rule of editing and give it like the whole widescreen look, but for some shorts, it like there was one.
Just can't
Like
win.
I did a cut for a good friend of mine on their short film, and there was some headaches on the short because nothing was organized in the footage. So,
Okay.
and I wasn't there on set, and I wasn't there in the beginning, so everything was dumped in my lap. So if you give
Okay.
me a film, a short, a feature, and I wasn't there in the beginning, you give me the story and all the things, and I'm working on it on my own. It's going to take me a little time. Like one short took me a year because nothing was organized, and I had
Okay.
to really put it back together from scratch.
Okay. I can't help it. I'm glad he's far enough away from the mic that nobody can hear him purring. Favorite Godzilla movie?
Uh, hmm. Yes, I am a diehard Godzilla fan, and The Crow. I love The Crow.
I
But
love The Crow.
favorite Godzilla movie? Shoot.
I love the fact that I didn't realize there was more than one.
There's 30. There are 32 now. Well, about to be 33
Jeez.
next year, but yeah.
I had no idea.
Well, depending if you go to the original Japanese, I would say Destroy All Monsters, and in the recent ones, I would probably say Godzilla versus Kong.
Okay.
So.
All right. River said that she is still down to be. Really? I hate it here. Go away. All right. She says she's still down to be featured in a music video.
Cool. Yes.
And
She's
then
definitely going to be featured.
Larry and Angel both are trying to support you in the fact that I agreed to be in a horror movie, because I truly do not remember agreeing to that, and I'm pretty sure I didn't.
Well, I mean, I think your audience would love to see you in a horror film.
Oh yeah, way to get me in trouble there. Okay.
Yeah, I did that.
I will. I'll tell you what. I'll keep an open mind. How about that?
You could be the final girl.
The final one to die.
And actually, the final girl lives. But yeah.
I'm okay with living. Jim, you haven't even been around. Stop it. He said he heard it as well. Stop it. You're
Shout out
horrible.
to Jim North and Larry Bradby and Angel Morales.
Gosh, I don't know about you guys. All right, well, I think that's probably about enough that we can go over on this topic for today. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And especially considering I had to move you from July to today because the other person had to cancel. I really appreciate that flexibility.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Anytime. Thanks, love. Bye, guys.
Bye.